G'day everyone, how's it going? Well, things have certainly changed in the last couple of weeks and most of us are now staying indoors to prevent any contact with this coronavirus. Nasty thing it is. With that in mind, as I'm not working at the moment, I thought I'd put this time to good use and practice a few of my different photography skills. So the last couple of days I've been going over macro focus stacking and using Helicon Focus as the software to do that in the computer. So I thought, well, what I might as well do is run you guys through it, if any of you are interested. This is a method I use. There are certainly other methods and other programs, but I find that with this setup and with Helicon Focus as the software, it works really, really well for what I need to do. And I get some very good results from it. At the moment I'm mostly doing plants, so I just go for a walk and find the odd plant here and there and to cut off the flower and use that. But you can use anything you want, insects, still life objects, whatever, it's up to you. But the process that I use is pretty simple, but there are other methods and, as I said, other software that you can use and see how you go. Rightio, what I'll do now is I'll cut to show you what I use, my basic setup, and we'll go from there. Okay, to start with, I've made myself a three-sided box, painted it matte black, and I use this to put my subjects in, and they're held up by alligator clamps that you can see there. The black gives me a good background, and the sides protect me from any extra wind that's blowing or anything like that. So it does a multiple of jobs. For light, I try and use whatever available light I have. Mostly it's coming in from the window on the left-hand side, hits the roof, and then reflects down into the softbox. I also have the interior light on, and you can see down there I have a piece of A4 white paper which I've laminated, and I use that to reflect the light up onto the subject. So there's a slightly better shot of what I'm shooting into. For a camera, I'm using my old Canon 450D. That thing must be nearly 14 years old now, and it was the first DSLR I ever got, and it's still going strong. Attached to that I have a Tamron 90mm f2.8 macro lens on a Velbon focus slide and onto a no-name tabletop tripod. Using a focus slide I find is probably easier, but there are other methods of doing this, and as I go through I'll show you the process of how I do it. Now, what I do need though is some subjects, so let's go for a walk and find some flowers. Here's a bush with some nice flowers on it. We'll go over and have a look, see what there is available on here. I think they might be a bit too small. I'll go and find something a bit bigger. I found a lovely bunch of yellow flowers on the outside nature strip, so I'll grab a quick cutting of them, and behind it are some stunning blue little flowers also out on this nature strip. So now to find a nice little bunch to nip, and we'll see where we go from there. Alright, what I'm looking for is a nice bunch of flowers with a fairly long stem. The longer the stem, the easier it is to do. Yeah, that one looks alright. And now for the blue. Trying to find ones that don't have too many dead ones or unopened ones. And a decent size, but not too big of a bunch. Yeah, here we go. Alright, got my two, we'll head back. So we've got the two bunches of flowers that we need. We'll head back and we'll start our focus stacking. Alright, we've come back. I've collected my two specimens. I've just put them in give them a bit of a clean up, and I'll keep them in some water. Keeps the flowers sort of fresh. And I think we'll start with the orange ones, because they seem to die the quickest. So the bluey ones will last a little bit longer. Okay, so what I do, I get my alligator clamp and I put my flower into the clamp. As I'm doing this, I'm looking for angles and directions of how I want to take it for the first shot. I'll try and do half a dozen sort of different images. Different sort of images, different scenario type situations with it once I get them set up. So now that I've got that set up, I'm ready to put it in front of the camera. So once I've got the flower in place on the alligator clamps and it's set up, and I get the framing right, the first thing you got to remember is that with Helicon Focus, as you focus stack in, as you move into the image, you'll crop off some of the top and some of the bottom. So you've got to leave yourself enough of the subject in frame so that at the end of it, when you do your focus stacking, that you haven't cropped top or bottom or left or right of the subject. The other thing you also got to remember, or something that I find, is that when I use Helicon Focus, that I have to underexpose the image by at least one stop, because by the time it adds all the images together, then it will come out slightly overexposed, or sometimes just a little bit underexposed. However, if you focus them all at the correct exposure, once you stack them, they will be greatly overexposed. So always, I find that it's always best to underexpose. Now I've got the plant all set up and ready to go. The first thing I do is I get an initial sharp focus on the subject. Once I've got that, I then place my focus point on the part of the subject, or in this case the orange flower, that's closest to me. Once I've done that, I then zoom in and I adjust the magnification to get it nice and sharp. Once I've done that, I then zoom in a little bit more and check the sharpness. And then once all that is done, I'm ready to go. At this point, I'm shooting at an aperture of f6.3 at 0.08 of a second. I'm only using natural light, as I said before, so there's the light that comes in from the window that's hitting the top of the roof and bouncing in, a bit from the LED light above me, and I have, as I said, the white paper that's laminated in front of me and that's reflecting some light up. Okay, what I do now is I'll take a series of images, so I'll take one now. Once that's taken, I have a quick check of it, and then I move the focus rail forward. Now for this one, I do about a half a turn, but it's up to you. You can do smaller turns or longer turns, depending on what your aperture is. So if you're going to use a large aperture like f2.8, you'll have to do a lot more movements into the image than what you would if you're at, say, f6.3, f8, f10. So because they're the depth of fields that they give you. So for me at f6.3, I'll probably do about 20 images into this one. So I'll take my second one. Once I've checked it and find out that it's okay, I'll then move on in. And I'll now do this another 18 times to make sure I've got all the images. So I'll get back to you once I've captured all the images. So basically what's happening is we're taking an image, we take an image and then we then move the focus point a little bit forward, and then we take another image, move the focus point forward. So effectively we're cutting the image into slices. Now the number of movements you have to make depends, again, as I said, on what you feel like. You can do more, you can do less. For me, what I try and do is I judge by the distance on the focus rail that I've moved to make sure that I've taken and I've moved through all the way through the image with the focus rail in the length of it. And you will start to tell that by when you get to the last few photos, everything should be out of focus as you've gone all the way through. So I'll take a couple more. The other thing you have to be very careful of is not to bump the table. So you've got to make sure everything is completely still, because otherwise it won't line up correctly in Helicon Focus. So I'll take a few more images. So I'm slowly moving my way forward. The front part of the image is now becoming out of focus, and the back part of the flower is coming into focus. Again, the number of moves you want to make is entirely up to you, but I always try and overdo it rather than underdo it. Okay, I should be about it. Okay, that'll do for now. Once I reach the end, what I then do is I put my hand in front of the lens so that it blacks out, and all I'm getting is a sort of a blur of my fingers. I take that photo, and what that does is signifies to me when I put it into Lightroom that those series of photos with that one, I'll now reframe the subject to the orange flower to another composition, and then I'll go through and do another series of shots so you can see. Okay, got to adjust the camera slightly up and down. As I said, you've got to really make sure that you're not going to cut too much of your image out as your focus stacks. So I'll take a quick sharp. Right, so that's nice and sharp there. I'll zoom in, looking sharp. And the movements are very, very small from going in and out of focus. All right. So that's ready now, so I'll take a series of photos for my second composition. And the aperture and shutter speed and ISO will stay the same. So aperture of f6.3.08 of a second and an ISO of 100. Alright, I'm going to continue through. I'll get back to you at the completion of these images. Okay, I've just taken the last image of that composition. What I do now is I reset the focus rail, I'll turn the camera off, and I get the SD card out, and then we'll load it into Lightroom. And once I've done that, I will get back to you and show you on the computer screen how I then process these images using Lightroom, Helicon Soft and Photoshop. So I'll speak to you in just a minute. Right, guys, I've imported all the images into Lightroom, and as you can see from the computer screen, there's two different compositions there, and the first one has 22 odd images and the second one has about 21 images, and you can see there at image 23 that my hand photograph of my hand, that separates the two compositions, so I know which ones I have to upload into Helicon Focus. I've already highlighted the first composition, so now what I do is I right click onto one of the highlighted ones, go down to export and Helicon Focus, and I export them across to Helicon Focus. Now this will take a few seconds. The more powerful the computer is, the faster it's done, but it doesn't take that long. So we'll just give it a couple of seconds. And there you go. Now as you look on the right, see all your images laid out, and then underneath that you'll see another area that says rendering method. I use method C, which is the pyramid style. Once it's all ready to go, I click on render, and you'll see it render as it brings all the images in. Once it's completed, the one on the right hand side is the completed one, so you go up to savings, click on savings, across to save, click on that, and it brings up where you want to save it, and you can rename it or keep the name that you want. I like to rename it. And once I've renamed it, I click on save. You'll then get a message from Helicon Focus that you need to close, so you click OK, go up and exit out. And it'll take a minute or two for it, or a minute or so for it to come into back into Lightroom. And there we go, it's that image there. So what I then do is I go over to the develop screen, and I must say is what I do when I export back from Helicon Focus, I export it back as a TIFF file, and in here I'll go through and make any adjustments. I don't like to do too many adjustments, I just like to make very basic ones. And with the black background, I like to keep it as black as I possibly can. I think it looks really nice. I'm going to add a little bit of texture. I like a little bit of clarity. Don't overdo any of this. And then a little bit of vibrance. Once that's completed, I hit Control E. That'll export it into Photoshop. And once I'm in Photoshop, if there's anything that I need to remove, like a little bit of scraggly plant or some spider webs, anything like that, I do that with the healing brush tool. If not, I go up to filter, click on sharpen, and unsharp mask, and click OK. I've always done sharpen in Photoshop. It's just something I was told to do a long time ago by a photographer I admire, so that's something I continue to do. Once it's all sharpened, you click the X to exit out, save the image, yes, and then we go back into Lightroom, and that's the image that's been redone. Rightio, so what I'll do now is I'll export it out to a folder, and then I'll show you on screen what that one looked like. I'll speak to you very shortly. Alright, so you would have just seen the first image composition that we did in Helicon Focus. And after that I put up the second composition that we did, so pretty much the same process all the way through. It's not too difficult, it's quite easy once you get used to it. What we're going to do now is try a slightly different method that you can do. This one, whilst the camera will still be on the focus rail, I won't actually be using the focus rail. What I do is once I bring the image, the composition up on the screen, I'll choose different points on the back of the screen and focus into it, and then move the focus point all around, taking a number of different focus points all around the image as I move in, and then we'll do it that way. Okay, so for this one we'll use the blue flower that we collected. So it goes into the clamp. Work out how we want it set up. Turn the camera on. And make some bold adjustments to start with. Okay, we're going to move that back a little bit. It's a bit too close. Okay, so now I've got it nice and sharp, roughly in the back of the screen. So what I do then is I look at the flower and I try and see which is the closest point to the camera, and I move the in-screen focus point to it. I zoom in and I adjust my focus. Again, the movements are just very slight. Then I zoom in again, check, yes, that looks good. And once that's done, I pick up the remote, make sure there's no movement in the subject, and I take that image. I then choose another point in the composition and I focus on that. So this time I'll choose the flower to the right and the bottom part of its corner petal, and I'll focus onto that, look sharp, zoom in. Yeah, it looks good, and I'll take that shot. I then, once that's done, I then move the focus point across to the other side, find another point that I want to focus onto, and it's not hard to choose because it's the parts that are all blurry, so you're just picking out all the blurry parts. Magnify in. Once you've done that, yeah, and I take that shot. And then I'll move to the top of that flower and come across a bit and focus so he's nice and sharp. Magnify in. Yep. And I take that shot. Then I'll come across to the next part, go up a little bit, focus, zoom in, slightly adjust my focus point. Yeah. And I take that shot, and then I'll move across again, slowly making my way all the way through the image. Magnify in, move the focus point up a bit. It's very fiddly doing it this way because it doesn't take much to knock it out of focus. All movements are, there we go, we got it. So I'll take that shot. So we just keep doing this all the way through until we're happy that we've got all the various images that we want and that they're nice and sharp. And once we've done that, we import into Lightroom. So once I finish this, I'll get back to you and we'll have the images in Lightroom. Okay guys, I've imported the second lot of images into Lightroom, and for that composition I took 8 images. So as before, what we'll do is select them all. So, and then once that's done, right click, down to export, down to Helicon Focus. As before, Helicon Focus will open up, takes a few seconds. And again, you can see all the images on the right hand side here, and we'll be using method C. So we just click render, Helicon does its thing. We then click saving, Go over here to save. We rename it if you wish, or you can keep the name that they give you, but I like to rename because I find it a bit easier. Once that's done, once it's ready to be saved, it comes up as to tell you to close it, so you just click OK, and then we click up into Lightroom. And we now just wait for it to come in. There it is there. And we click over to develop. And we go through and make whatever changes we wish to make. I always, as I said before, I do very minor adjustments. Main thing is I like to keep the background as black as I can and as clean. Add a little bit of texture, a little bit of clarity, just a little bit of vibrance, and that does it for me. Export into Photoshop. Again, now I just click on Unsharp Mask. I'm happy with that. Close that down, save it. And then we open up Lightroom again. Go to library, and from here I'll export it out and we'll have a look at that image. Alright, so you've just seen the third image that we did, the third composition, using a different method to do the focus stacking. There's many ways of focus stacking. Landscape photographers probably use the third method or the second method more than most people, but that's one way of doing it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you've learned something, enjoyed the couple of images that I took. If you did, please give me a like. If you haven't already, please subscribe, it'd be really great. And if you've got any comments or criticisms, etc., just drop them down below and I'll get back to you. Now, I'm not sure when my next video is going to be. All depends on what's happening with this COVID virus thing that's going around the world. Hopefully it won't be around too much longer and we can all get back to a normal life. Anyway, thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you the next time I do a video. Cheers. Bye.